The first thing you should know about my friend Andrew is that he's a neat freak. He washes his hands constantly. He must brush his teeth after even a morsel passes his lips. And we all know about his devotion to screen wipes for his electronics. It makes him physically uncomfortable to have dirty hands. The next thing you should know about Andrew is that he's friends with me, and I'm the opposite. I specifically like having dirty hands. He also survived quite well in Honduras, in way less than sterile conditions. I often wonder what that quality is, the fussiness versus the total chill. Whatever we call it, it's pure Andrew.
The first thing you should know about my friend Mrs. Filholm is that she cuts her own hair. When we talked about it previously, we looked at it from a cost-benefit perspective. Mrs. Filholm reminded us that haircuts are expensive both monetarily and temporally. It requires scheduling, traveling, and sitting still in a chair for more than 15 minutes, all of which cause Mrs. Filholm discomfort. The next thing you should know is that even if Mrs. Filholm didn't mind sitting still and making time for someone to cut her hair, she'd still avoid it because of the sideways looks she gets when asking the stylist to cut her hair like a boy. Welcome to Half My Age, a weekly show in which a 25-year-old adult and a 50-year-old child help each other make sense of the world.
Good job. There we have it.
There we have it. How are you this week, Mrs. Filholm?
Great. Had a pretty fun week. Did a lot of comedy.
A lot of comedy? What were you, I know from experience that comedy is something you resort to in times of need. Is it a busy week mentally, stressfully?
Yeah, it really was. It really was. It was one of those things just like, I got some anxiety here, and certain things like Alzheimer's don't feel very funny.
Yeah,
And,
I guess since we last spoke, we had the Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
That must have been hard.
It was hard.
How's your daddy?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It's hard missing my dad while he's still here. And truthfully, yeah, that's part of why I just went, it's hard. It's hard and it's sad. And as we know, I deal with that anxiety and not knowing what to do. I go out and do a shot at the open mic. My therapist recommends it. Somebody said to me at Tuesday night, a woman said to me, another comic, she goes, "That's a rad therapist." And I was like, yeah, she is. She's rad. So I did. I went, okay, time for some therapy. And then as with all things, I didn't do. It's not fun to go and do it once. It's fun to go and do it several times in a week because you get to do the same thing and improve it. Man, it's fun. I'm proud of myself.
Part of the fun is doing it better, huh?
Yeah, it's so fun. And I'm proud of myself. This week, there was one night I went to 3 different clubs. I feel so New Yorky. And I'm taking lifts just because it's easier and I don't have to park. And I can drink, but I don't drink too much. That's the other thing. I don't drink too much while I'm out there because I got to speak my mouth words nicely. So, and there were I went on standby at Comedy Works, knowing I'm not going to get on, but then you get to go and watch that show at the new talent night and watch the host and be backstage for the hang, and meet the other comics and see how people are doing. And then I walked over to another club, and it's a kind of late one, and it's one that if you don't. You put your name on the list, even if you're there early. It's very competitive. And if you're newish like me, kind of unknown, you might not get on or you might get on late. So I went, I will go first because there's another club where I know other people are at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my friends that I'm texting from comedy, like they're at this other place that I didn't think was very hot, but it was pretty hot that night. So I went first and like watched 2 other comics. Put my stuff, took my food to go, by the way, because I had ordered food before I made that decision. Got a Lyft, took it to the other club, and then got on there. And so that night I did the set twice, and then I did it again last night. I would have done 2 last night, but I had dinner with friends. So yeah, I did it at that time, and it was really fun. So it's gotten better, and I did 2 things comedy-wise that I'm really proud of. Last night, I had dinner with friends, like I said, and I got a couple of new jokes. Like my friend said something at the table, and I fell out. And as always, I went, "That's mine now. As soon as you want to take it to an open mic, you can have it back, but that's my joke." And then I thought, I think I know how I can weave in that new joke plus 2 other new jokes to the set I'd been doing all week.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it. I mean, that's kind of hard to not lose my lines or worry about my pace or whatever, to like throw it in. And it was kind of like edgy, risky for me is what it felt like. And I did it successfully. That felt really good. And then on Tuesday, one of the times, I just did something like really off the cuff, thought about it just a minute before. And at the end of my set, like my actual time, I insulted another comic who was in the audience.
Uh-oh.
Like gave it right to him. And it was so funny. It was so funny. And I just like did it. It wasn't that funny. I mean, my jokes weren't that funny. It went kind of okay. I didn't really have a button. And then I thought of the button. I kind of went back to the mic and said it on the, it was fun. But it was just so fun being in the, I mean, that's fun, man. That's fun to call back to somebody's set who just went. And,
So are you going to tell us about it? Or are you going to tell us this joke you stole from your
No.
friend?
Oh, no.
Oh, come on. I bring my A game, my Yankee Doodle material to this show.
It's a sexy joke. You don't even want to hear it. I mean, I bring my A game here, Andrew. I just promise you don't want to hear that joke. It's gross. It's grody. I mean, it's very not, it's funny. But you're going to have to come to the open mics to see it.
Actually, a really interesting thing is how you choose to segment your life. It's like George Costanza's idea of compartmentalizing all the different audiences of your life. You know, you've got your friends, you've got your family, you've got people you know from work. And how do you decide who gets what and what gets who?
I mostly, as you know, more and more in my life, I've been integrating it all and just going, whatever. There was a time at which, and I was advised by people who know, don't promote yourself as a stand-up comic while you're trying to get gigs doing your mama bear shtick. And I don't believe that anymore because I think the stand-up comedy feeds it and you're getting a funnier show. And my dream is to write my mama bear show into, like a 1 hour almost comedy, but it's with a message. That's the thing right now. That's my dream. That's my Netflix special, Andrew. So mostly I do not compartmentalize too much. I am what I am. You can find me in all of the places. But the thing about the stand-up comedy, and you know what? Everybody does this. It's not, I realized that a guy taped my set and put it on Facebook Live. I just found that this morning. I went, well, that's funny. But I'm putting it out there. He can. I'm not going to tell him not to.
Did he tag you in it?
No, he didn't. He was just putting up everybody's set. He's from out of town, and he's kind of documenting his stand-up while he visits Denver, I guess. Anyway, point being, when I'm doing the open mic nights and when we're all doing, I'm working stuff out. I mean, I'm figuring out my own line there. I mean, and everybody is. You're figuring out, is that too sexy a joke? Is that not the brand I want it to be? Is that too gross? I mean, every comic is, not every comic, some people are absolutely like, I'm going to work clean or I'm going to work gross. But I see a lot of people like testing that line at an open mic with just other comics. Like earlier in the night, people get actually more vulgar. And then I see them do the same set when there's civilians in the audience. And it's less, it's a line. It's a fine line. So it's not that I'll tell you the jokes. I just want to tell them on air because they're kind of gross. I mean, I think I went on last night at 12:04 in the morning.
Good Lord.
I know.
How do you have any energy in the tank? What, have you just been slamming coffee shots all afternoon?
No, it's fun. I sleep so well after I do comedy.
Yeah.
I got right up to go to work in the morning. It's not bad.
Last week, I went to a show, and it was in Colorado Springs, and we left the show at 10 at night, only to drive, for an hour and 10 minutes home. And by the time I got home at 11, whatever, I was pooped. I've turned into such an old man.
I know you have.
There's no way I could go do comedy at midnight and then, hang around and then drive home and still be functional the next day.
I know.
I just don't have that in my quiver anymore.
Not anymore. It's funny. We've switched places.
I guess so. Maybe I should go get a divorce.
No, please don't do that. It's nervous energy, I guess. But I do sleep well. What do you mean you saw a show? Like that, like a band? Like a cool concert?
No. I don't know if our listeners know this, but Delaney is a dance teacher. She's a dance instructor. And one of the consequences of being a dance instructor and someone who's interested in dance is that you're interested in dance. So we went to see a friend's children in their summer dance show.
Oh my God, that sounds brutal, bruh.
It was fun. It was actually it was in an amazing venue in Colorado Springs, and it was really professionally done. I mean, they had professional lights, professional sound, and all of the kids were super talented. I don't know, maybe it's something in the water in Colorado Springs. I know we've got the Olympic Training Center there and everything like that, but these kids are crazy talented. So it was more fun than I expected to have, and I enjoyed it. At this point in my relationship, I've been to more than 5, but fewer than 10 dance shows, children's dance shows. Mm-hmm. And I've come to appreciate certain things and dislike other things. And this was on the whole one of the better shows I've been to.
That is a real interesting subculture you're messing around with there. Sounds pretty on the edge, Andrew.
Well, it's not. It's not
I
on the.
know.
Speaking of being on the edge and subcultures and that sort of thing, what'd you see on your way to the dollhouse today?
Okay, can you please check the Slack channel,
Yeah, I
the thing
see
I
it.
sent you? Do you see that picture?
Yeah, no one else can see it. Why
I
don't
know,
you
I'm
tell
going
them
to
what it's about?
describe it. So
Do
that
it.
is a photo that I took last night. I left my house via car at 6:15 at night and got home at 9. I went to dinner with friends, as I said. And in that time, the things that are pictured in this photo were placed. The photo has a picture of, in my little alley right outside my garage, a black lacy bra, a man's white t-shirt, and a dirty tennis ball.
Oh my goodness! How must those all go together?
Correct. We feel like crime scene investigators sometime in this neighborhood. So, Andrew, do you see what I'm saying? Like in the 2 hours.
Maybe because there's a ton of crime in your
Yeah,
neighborhood.
that's exactly right. But I mean, okay, in the 2 hours that I'm gone, I come back, I'm like, what is that? And then I go, did I drop my bra? Like, was I carrying laundry? What the? Oh, no, that's not my bra. Oh, my God. So yeah, then I went and did comedy after that, and I was showing everybody that picture, and really, it was hilarious to hear other comics sit around and reckon what had happened. Because that is a funny 3-item. It's a still life, really. Don't you kind of want to paint it?
That is a still life. No, I don't want to paint it, but I'm not much of a painter anyway.
I don't
think
want it on my wall.
I'm just glad that the bra is black. Black hides a lot of sins. That white T-shirt is disgusting.
Disgusting.
It's more brown than it is white.
Filthy. And the tennis ball as well. So I can't imagine the tennis ball has anything to do with it, but it was funny hearing other comics
Coincidence.
weighing in.
That tennis ball's an innocent bystander, hopefully.
Seems like it. Hopefully. I don't want to talk about the things that people surmised about that tennis ball. But that was really... Okay, so I saw that.
That
I've
tennis
seen a
ball
lot.
has seen some shit, man.
Okay, should I tell about the guy at the gas station that I saw today?
I don't know. Was that on your way to the dollhouse?
Yeah, I mean, technically.
Sounds
I was
like it
coming
fits
home.
here.
Oh my God. I stopped at the gas station and I was just standing there waiting to buy my Diet Dr. Pepper. And there was some scene, like a woman was paying for it. Was like, why are we staying here so long? I think she was dealing with scratch tickets or something. I have no idea. It was just taking a long time. And this man who told me he's 60 was talking with me. People in my neighborhood, as you have said, really are pretty outgoing.
I didn't say that. I said
What'd
in
you
your
say?
business.
In my business.
I'll tell my story after you tell your story.
Okay. In my neighborhood, this also happens. People are just sort of very talkative and friendly. So I'm standing here talking to this guy, and great, have a good afternoon. Thank you very much. And then he leaned into my ear right before he left the store, and he said, if you're not married, I'm coming to get you. That's insane.
We've got a new boyfriend.
No. What is that, Andrew? And I kind of went, wasn't sure I'd heard him. You know, one of those things like, what? I just laughed and kept focusing on the guy I was paying, and the guy left. And I don't think he's coming to get me. I don't think he saw my car or anything. Andrew, that is insanely invasive and creepy.
That is insanely invasive and creepy, and that's kind of the story of your neighborhood.
I guess.
I was a little bit early on my way to the dollhouse today, so I stopped off in a liquor store that's historically significant to my family.
Mm-hmm.
A family member owned a liquor store near the dollhouse, and
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah, not for decades. And I've heard of it, and I've heard stories of it. I've never been there, and I've certainly never been there of age. So this was kind of my first time there. And I noticed in your neighborhood, everyone is up in everybody else's business.
In your business.
There are people yelling at other people across the street. When I pulled over and parked my bike, there was a guy who just turned onto this street, and there were two guys jaywalking, crossing the street in front of him. And this guy, instead of, just pushing on his brakes and waiting for the guys to walk by, he revs his engine, he slams on the brakes. He revs his engine, he slams on the brakes as these two guys are walking in front of his SUV. And he's yelling obscenities at them out the window, and they're yelling obscenities back. And it's not, I mean, there's no real danger of anything happening here. But it's one of you live in a neighborhood where people yell at each other and are openly hostile just to your face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot walk down the zombie street without getting yelled at. And it's discomforting.
Yeah, it's discomforting. And the weird thing is that I think it comes from both sides. Like, I have seen Rafiki just yell at people who are in her yard. Like she's sitting there having a nice conversation with me, and she just goes off on like, hey, what are you doing? She's lived here her whole life. I mean, I think that's what you do instead of, befriending the zombies in the hood, as we have been told. I think that there's a certain amount of like, you got to be prepared to yell at somebody because they might be up in your business in a bad way.
Sure, you gotta protect those boundaries. We talked about boundaries a lot in the last podcast.
Ooh, you didn't maybe see it, but I covered my fence because my new fence isn't coming for another few weeks. I covered my fence, which has gaps in it, with tarps
There you go.
so
That
that it
seems
feels
like a
a little
simple
more
solution.
secure. Yeah, for now it's good. It's kind of ugly, but then I hung some hula grass skirt kind of fringe on it, so it looks like Clay Beach. So it's funny back there.
I don't know. Your idea of getting a new fence so that people can't see in. I kind of like having the holes in the fence so that you can see out, so that you can make sure no one's squatting in your.
I know, but you were the one who told me I don't want to know what's going on back there.
That's true.
I'm not kidding. I mean, I consider putting like a peephole, which you can do. I mean, I might ask them if that's possible to do because it concerns me. I want to see it. I think about I met a neighbor across the street and she said she's got a camera in her alley that, you can talk through like a Ring doorbell thing like I've got in my front door.
Mm-hmm.
So she also said that her son is now grown and out of the house, but he used to shoot the zombies with BB guns. And that that's one of the reasons.
That's okay.
Well, okay. When they are. Okay, I'm going to tell you something about that in a minute. But anyway, she said the same thing. She got a nice security fence, and now she can't see them, and it's, yeah, she liked being able to shoot people with BB guns. I mean, I kind of get it.
I wasn't allowed to shoot my brother with a BB gun, let alone a stranger.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you about those strangers. This woman is raising children in her house. She has a little child, younger child, and then she had this, teenage boy, I guess. One thing I saw on the way to the dollhouse last week is a car parked.
Are you telling me about this lady still?
No.
Oh, that's all. She's raising children? That's the end of it?
Yes, I'm still telling you about this woman, but not her. Yes, I'm telling you about the situation and why you would shoot somebody with BB guns.
I see.
There's prostitution in my neighborhood. That's all I want to say. What they're doing back there, as we've just discussed from the evidence, is they're back there turning their tricks. And she had a little kid in the house, and when they wouldn't leave, shooting people with BB guns seems kind of smart. I don't know. I mean, really, you're doing stuff in my alley. Get away. There are kids here. The other thing that we saw right after you left last week, I believe, after we recorded in the late afternoon evening, there were 13 fire trucks 1 block away from my house and a house fully on fire.
What's going on there? Did someone burn the place down?
Probably.
Intentionally? Unintentionally?
Probably intentionally. It was an abandoned home. The neighbors I went over, like, oh my gosh. And the neighbors who were standing around looking at it were kind of like, yeet. We've been hoping for this for years. It's been an abandoned property, and so it has been used as the floppiest of flop houses. I mean, that is what's going on in my neighborhood.
Nobody wants a floppy flop house.
I know. Everybody's shooting up. I mean, we've got junkies in the neighborhood, and we've got prostitution in the neighborhood, and that house was very convenient for both of those things, so everybody hated it. I have walked by this house on my morning walk and not noticed that it was this abandoned property, which is interesting. So it didn't burn to the ground, but I mean, it is charred. Did you see the video sent? I mean, it was so cool. Firefighters with hose
those firemen. Why couldn't they just let it go?
That's kind of what I wondered. And I mean, they had chainsaws and all the water, and a storm was coming in, so wind was blowing. That's probably why they didn't let it go, because a storm was coming in. It was getting very windy. But my God, it feels like you said that my next door channel, Nextdoor, whatever the hell that app is, must be the most exciting one in town because so much happens here. For real, though. Holy cow. I mean, the line in the song for which my home is named, Shakedown Street, the line is nothing shaking on Shakedown Street. Not accurate. Something's shaking on Shakedown Street every day.
Sometimes something's shaking. Sometimes something's burning.
Oh, my God.
Sometimes something's getting shot up.
I actually went, you know what happened? It's so funny how I do. I live in this compound, right, where I ignore the zombies and I try to keep myself safe, and it works. I feel like
You're surrounded by your armory of BB guns.
Yep. Yeah.
I do want to hear from our listeners as to whether or not it's okay to shoot homeless people in the alley with BB guns.
I would like you to put that on a Reddit channel. A Reddit thread, or a subreddit, right? That's a controversial thing. It's funny how I probably wouldn't have said that 6 months ago that it's okay, and now I'm like...
That doesn't sound very woke,
Seems
Mrs.
good.
Filholm.
No, it doesn't. I'm saying, I told you that last week or 2 weeks ago. I wonder if this neighborhood is making me hard and cynical, and it is. But, okay,
like
point
being on the inside, you're suddenly... what's that Slaughter... the movie with...
Slaughterhouse?
No, not the book. What's the movie with... the guy who plays Morgan Freeman in the prison.
Shawshank Redemption?
Shawshank, yes. Why is that? I don't know why I thought Slaughterhouse.
I can see that.
Yeah. And now you've been on the inside for too long. You're hardened. You have no sympathy. You have no empathy. You're just out there yelling at people.
I know. And okay, and not noticing that a house is on fire to that degree. I was outside in my yard with headphones in, right? So I didn't hear sirens. But the reason I saw it is because I got in my car to go get gas for the mower because I'm mowing Rafiki's lawn and mine, and I needed gas because hers is not electric, thank God. And so I was just driving to the gas station to get a gallon of gas, and I go, whoa, what? Like, it's a block away from me, Andrew, and I was that unaware. So that's interesting. And yeah, in terms of getting hard and this neighborhood making me cynical, when you described it that way, maybe it's appropriate because when officer friend of mine said, don't befriend the zombies in the hood, as I have said, I'm not stupid. You know what? My instinct is to be too friendly and trust people too much, probably. I do give people, I walk around like that, and maybe it is too vulnerable. So maybe I'm learning the right amount of just be prepared to yell at somebody. When I lived in New York City, I sure knew how to yell at somebody. And when I moved back here,
did you ever use the classic, hey, I'm walking here?
No. No, but I do remember when I moved back, like 22 years ago in the summer, I was having lunch with a friend, and something was going on, like in the line in front of us. Like we were standing there waiting to order a sandwich, and I just said something New York, like, get out of my way. And she was like, hey, New York City. So you come back from that city maybe a little bit different. I guess I'll just have to flex that muscle again, Andrew. I still like it here. It's still fine with me, but it is a scene.
It is a scene. It is a scene. When in my short little, I parked, walked into the liquor store, came out of the liquor store. In that little 4-minute window, I had some experiences that just don't happen in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm. Right? I wrote this down in my little notebook, by the way, last week for follow-up. It says follow-up, and then it says, I wish I knew what a gunshot sounds like.
How do you not know what a gunshot sounds like?
I can't tell the difference between that and
is
it
hard.
A firework or is it a...
I used to play this game in my neighborhood, and I've spent a lot of time around guns.
I know.
It's very difficult to tell the difference between gunshots and fireworks.
I know.
That's a known thing.
So, okay. So I wish I knew because I was actually on the phone with my friend Lorette and one night and just talking, and I was walking on the side of my house and I said, I wish I knew what a gunshot sounds like. And she was like, oh my God, come on. Like, you're killing me. But that was a follow-up. Okay, so I don't know. By the way, the very night that house was on fire and there was so much going on in this neighborhood and it felt so urban and crazy, you should see the robin redbreasts in my yard. I must have very excellent worm.
You're looking at red leather, yellow leather. You're looking at redbreasts in your yard with all that prostitution?
Andrew, you should go to the open mic nights with stuff like that. That's gold.
Well, at least I'm bringing it to the podcast.
Bringing it. I have so many red robins in my yard, and they fight. I'm not kidding. It is so funny. It's like watching. I filmed some of it. I was watching. First of all, I have a ton of them. I must have excellent worm habitat in my grass because they are here all the time. There are robins pulling worms out of my yard. I can see it all the time. And there was one little guy, and he had 2 worms. And then there was another guy who kept flying in trying to take one of the worms, and he just fought him off. And I mean, it was like full-on bird fight. And then the other bird flew away and just perched up on a wire watching, and the other guy wrapped up. That's what they do. He kind of wrapped up these 2 little worms, put them both in his beak, and flew off with them like, these are mine.
What a badass.
I know. It was like watching brothers fight. Like, no, all the worms are mine. All the worms are mine. You can't have one. This is my worm, and it's back off. And then that bird stood there like, I won that fight. And I saw those 2 fighting the next night. It is very interesting that I have a full bird habitat going on here in my yard. And it teaches me about people.
You're out there collecting data, Mrs. Filholm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what you could do with that data? Well, we got a new sponsor today.
We do. Let's talk about data.
I think they could help you with all this bird data you're collecting.
I am, because you know what? That's funny because it's not unrelated. I am collecting bird data about how birds treat each other because it might have something to do with how we treat each other. And this is a company called BergDen Data Consulting.
How do you spell that?
Well, B as in boy, E as in egg, R as in royal, G as in green, D as in delta. E as in egg again, and N as in nothing. BergDen Data Consulting. I'm going to read the ad here, and then I'm going to talk about them. BergDen Data Consulting is for small and medium-sized businesses or organizations. We provide data analysis and research to clients who wish to know their work or market better. We use cutting-edge GIS and data analytical frameworks, including machine learning and AI, to find answers to any question you may have. BergDen has worked with both for-profit and nonprofit organizations and would love to talk about opportunities to work together. And you can find them at BergDen.com. Thank you for sponsoring us. I love that. This is actually a guy that I know, and he did some work for me. You're a data scientist as well.
This is close to my heart. This is a person who works in the industry that I work in, and it looks like they started their own business.
Exactly right.
The small team, super cool thing going on here, and I respect it and I like it.
That's awesome. And then what they did for me is did some analysis on for an article I'm writing about, which I've talked about. The school shootings, in response to the school shootings, and just my mama bear stuff, like what's going on with that teen violence. My question to him, the question I took to BergDen Data Consulting was, is there an increase in violence amongst young people in this country? What does that look like? Is there, and how would that break down? Is there an increase in school shootings? Is there an increase in whatever? And oh my gosh, they came back with this cool report, and I just asked for like a real simple. They were ready to give me, interactive stuff that you create in Tableau and R, I think, like real data viz. But I got nice little charts. I haven't spent too much time with my results yet because I just got them. And along with that came a sponsorship, which is adorable. And we appreciate it. Anyway, it was very cool. And I think that this data and the analysis that they did for me, I think it's going to show that there has not been an increase in teen violence.
That's really interesting.
In fact, maybe a decrease.
There's an increase in media coverage of teen violence for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's curious. And so I'm going to look at that. I really haven't unpacked it yet, but I just took a glance and was very impressed by the way they presented it for me. And there were, charts and graphs, and then a nice little sort of explanation. And so they've chunked it out. So I really have not spent time with it. But what a cool thing, and what a cool discrete question I took to them. I love how researchers work like that, right? It's a new company, like you said. I came to them with a question I wanted them to study for me, and they came back with like great results that I'll be able to use. Isn't that good? That's what you do.
That's fantastic. I love that. I think it's great. I'm glad they sponsored. And it reminds me of there was a tweet from Bill Gates last week, maybe the week before. By the time someone listens to this, it'll be years ago.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to get to this website, but it's, it wants me to shut off my ad blocker and it wants me to do all this stuff. And
Which website?
It's called boredpanda.com. I was trying to find this thing that Bill Gates tweeted, and that was the first result that came up. And I'm going to a different one now.
I was just making sure you weren't having difficulty getting to BergDen.com. Berg as in iceberg, Den as in Denver.com. You're not having trouble getting there. That's easy.
Nope, that's as easy as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I got this. So Bill Gates posted a data viz, and it's causes of death in the United States. And, you've got heart disease and cancer up top. And then it shows how Google searches work and how the Google searches for heart disease and cancer compare to the actual rate of heart disease and cancer in terms of deaths caused.
Interesting.
And then it does media coverage as well. So you can see...
send me that?
Yeah, I'll send you this link right now. We'll put it in show notes. It's coming to you via Slack, a messaging app for teens. And you can see that even though heart disease and cancer make up almost 60% of the American death toll, in terms of searches, it only makes up about 40%. But in terms of media coverage, it makes up 15% of media coverage, which is interesting. Yeah. So the things that are most covered by media are terrorist incidents, and those actually account for somewhere between 30 and 40% of media coverage. And in actuality, they don't even register on the causes of death chart. Nobody dies from terrorist incidents.
Okay. It's not true that nobody dies from terrorist.
Statistically
true. I know.
Statistically, nobody dies from terrorist incidents.
I work with statisticians, and I remember my very first day on my job. They were studying acute malnutrition in Africa, and a guy said, nobody dies from AIDS anymore. And then he looked at me and said, you may not repeat that I just said that. I'm not, because I'm not naming him. But what he meant is statistically, for the purpose of this model that we're doing, nobody dies of AIDS anymore. So yeah, wow, that's really fascinating. I can't, it's kind of tiny. Could you please read what Bill Gates tweeted about it?
Yeah, a direct quote, "I'm always amazed by the disconnect between what we see in the news and the reality of the world around us. As my late friend Hans Rosling would say, we must fight the fear instinct that distorts our perspective." And he tweeted this little chart, and it's super interesting. I recommend people take a look at it. I think about this kind of thing a lot. And in my last job, this was what we were trying to report on and research is media coverage versus reality. So it's definitely a topic that's near and dear to my heart.
And me too. I mean, I'm just so fascinated by media, everything. And part of my job as a high school teacher in my mind was to absolutely teach you kids to be skeptical, not cynical, about messages you're told, right? You have to have the knowledge of how rhetoric works to know when you're being played. It's really important. So I love this, and I cannot wait to look. That chart is very small for my eyes right now, but I can't wait to study that. That probably will go right into my this thing I'm doing. And the thing is, it doesn't change my message. It's just good to know. I mean, if violence amongst young people has technically gone down or statistically gone down instead of up lately, and that it is actually media hype, that's great to know. It will inform what I say. What I'm saying is we got to watch our young kids. We got to stay vigilant because some of them are in trouble. And there are a lot of things preying. There are real predators threatening them. One of them is the actual media. So I love this kind of building my logos there for this thing I'm thinking of writing. That's fantastic. Good job, Bill Gates.
While we're talking about Mama Bear, do you have a role model of the week for us?
Oh, I mean, I think that, no. I mean, that right there, what was I just, I didn't really, I thought that just mostly those birds, studying those birds and how they treated each other reminded me to think about teenagers. No, I didn't. I feel like the role model of the week is getting annoying.
Oh, it is?
Not for me. I want to talk about it all the time. For our listeners, every time I listen, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds preachy. What I was just saying right now, we'll pull that one. Being skeptical of the messages that are directed at you. There's a role model in my book, a sort of sub-role model where parent like an English teacher, because I put myself in the hero role of an English teacher who doesn't care about teaching you to love literature. I put myself in the hero role of helping your brains understand the messages that are coming at you. So what that means for parents would be like asking kids to be skeptical when a child comes to the dinner table or home with a fact. Ask them, teach them how to go and search that further. When somebody says, oh, you know what I mean? Kids are often, all of us, adults, in fact, more than children sometimes, come in hot with an opinion, teaching them to go, why don't we go and look that up? Let's look at the reality of that. Let's look at the factual basis. Let's look at the logical fallacies that are part of that argument. How are they playing you? And being aware of that, in my mind, like I said, is pretty inflated English teacher position. But in my mind, that's one of the most important things that we can do to young people is protect their brains and teach them how to make sense of the advertising and media that is aimed squarely at them.
You've always said to me, whenever we're talking about products, you always use the term, I know when I'm getting handled.
Yep.
And sometimes you don't mind being handled,
Yep.
and sometimes you do.
Yep.
But knowing the difference between, when they're playing on your emotions, when they're pushing the buttons that make you want to do something, it's a valuable life skill.
Do you think?
I think a lot of people don't have it. I'm constantly... every time I see it, I'm always surprised that someone bought it. Anything that comes off an infomercial, like, good Lord, what in your brain said that was a good idea?
The relentless way that they got into your brain, right? And infomercials, especially, you go, what? That's so obviously aimed at selling, right? It's so heavy, selly, that's funny to me. But it works. It continues to work on people, obviously. Yeah, isn't that funny? In this day and age, why would you even watch an infomercial?
I can't imagine. I don't know. I guess I don't know where you would see one. Maybe if you still have a cable subscription.
I guess. I mean, I wonder. They're on YouTube. I suppose people go and watch them. Weird.
I've been latest YouTube rabbit hole is more maker stuff. And I actually am getting advertisements. Like every third advertisement is for a 3D printer of some kind.
Funny. Do you want one?
No, I don't. I don't really know what I would do with one. I mean, I know what I would do with one. I don't have the skills to design something in a 3D space. That's not in my wheelhouse. And I also don't. Even if I did build something really cool with this printer, the whole product has to come off the printer because I don't have a workshop where I can affix it to something else, or I don't have tools and I don't have space.
I kind of made that decision about 3D printers years ago when I first heard them coming out. And of course, I was, oh my God, fascinated. And I went, okay, turn that off. Don't encourage me. I don't need that. I did. I made that decision. Like, I'm not going to go down that path. I am going to build pottery. There are other things that I get into, but that one I really just went, okay, I can see that that's too much for me. What I think is funny is like at the university where they have a maker's floor and they've got 3D printers in all kinds of fashions. It reminds me very much of the pottery workshop at my undergraduate experience because kids are in there working hard, figuring things out, designing things, making things, and basically they end up making a plastic vase for their mom for Mother's Day that you could buy at Target for $1, but I made it. It's exactly like bringing home a kind of heavy, ugly pot that you made for your mom that she keeps for, you know what I mean? It really reminds me of
My
that.
mother's got a lot of my pottery.
Exactly. And it reminds me of that, like these kids are making stuff. Some of it's super cool. I mean, 3D printers are, creating limbs and oh my gosh, all these things that I don't even understand. But I did, few years ago, I went, I have to say no to that.
That's where I am right now. There are so many other things that I need to learn that apply to my job that could make me money.
Yep.
And learning to model things in 3 dimensions is not one of those things.
That's so funny. It's exactly how I felt. One thing that I do want to, you want to know something cool that I've decided that's at the top of my list, Andrew? Probably going to name. First of all, I have to stop doing comedy every night because I got to do my yard work.
I want to refresh our listeners' memories that the top of your list used to be auctioneering school. What is it today?
I looked up. I think auctioneering wouldn't be a bad thing to have in my pocket as like kind of. But I don't think you make a ton of money doing that. Is what I looked up. ROI. I still think it would be fun and funny, but it seemed like there aren't that many. There's not a need for that many auctioneers in any community.
Sure,
Maybe a hard thing.
They're only working on Sundays anyways, and there's only so many auction houses.
Exactly. So, no, the latest, actually, I have my own website up now for my voiceover and announcing work. I've got a nice reel there. It's lisalanefilholm.com. You should check it out. And I am going to put at the top of my list now to record my own audiobook, Beyond Mama Bear. I've been meaning to do that for years, and I didn't because studio space. Well, guess what? We're sitting here right now in a studio space that I can record that whole book in and get it up there. People have asked me many times, like, is it on audio? I'd like to, listen to it in the car. And then and I've been talking to how to break into that business. So I'm going to do that first so that I have it in my portfolio. And then I would very much love to get some jobs recording audiobooks.
That'd be great. Mm-hmm. I love, whenever I'm anxious, I return to the things that are comforting and familiar. And for me, that's audiobooks of Harry Potter. I think that's true of a lot of people in my generation.
Mm-hmm. And that's a famously wonderful voice actor doing that, all the characters and keeping them straight. I mean, that's a famously beautiful example of the art of, Audible.
Maybe once you start doing some of these book recordings, you'll be that to someone else. You'll be the voice they go to sleep to every night.
We can really hope, Andrew. That's the thing.
Maybe on this podcast, people are already doing it.
I think so. We talked about how they take us in the shower.
I can see how people would fall asleep.
That's what I was just going to say. Whether they intend to or not, I can see this being the podcast to which they fall asleep. That's probably really likely, right? And I don't know that I'm going to enjoy the act of recording a book. I've always thought I would. I mean, to me, that's always been the dream job, and I've never done one thing about pursuing that. In my voiceover career. And now, anyway, so I've been doing some research on that, talking to some people in the industry about how you go about it. And I should think I'm going to like it and be good at it. We'll see. What a cool thing to test it with my own book. So I'm going to put that at the top of the list, which means somebody's sitting here in this hot studio a lot.
Well, it'll be winter sometime.
Yeah, but I want to do it now.
I thought having a nice book reading voice was kind of the only requirement to be a high school English teacher.
You did?
Yeah. What else do they ask for?
A nice book reading voice?
Yeah.
The kids in my classroom didn't think I had a nice voice.
Uh-oh.
They did. I didn't read stories to you. Maybe that's for like a first grade teacher.
I had in my freshman honors English class, there was our teacher had a excellent way of reading books. He certainly would not qualify as a voice actor, but when he read, we listened, and it was fun, and it was just good stuff. I thought that was what English teachers did.
No. I didn't. I think your 9th grade English teacher cared more about you loving literature than I did. That's the true story. I tried to ruin, whatever. It's not true. I thought, but as I've just said, I thought that it was more important that you learn how that argument is made and why that story is successful and what is going on there. So I didn't read I probably did. I read nice passages to kids, but not that often. No. Nope, that had nothing to do with it. So anyway, that's cool. I learned, I'm learning about that, and I'm going to record my book. So someday soon, maybe it will be out there, and I'll tell you all about it.
You sent me another thing in Slack, and I think this is for the show. I cannot be sure. By the way, Slack is a messaging app for teens. You said this is kind of how we converse in Slack. you say canceling credit cards that we leave at bars.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
one line message. And it reminds me, I haven't done that in a long time, but I have done it previously. Sometimes when you're in college and you're out late at night, you leave your credit card at a bar, and sometimes it's a lot easier to just call the credit card company, cancel it, and have them send a new one than it is to go back and face
The light of day.
sure, the light of day, that maybe the bartender you saw last night.
Exactly. Your bucket of regret from the night before. You got to go and face it by the light of day. Yeah, you taught me that, and I had to do it last night. I got home, and I just want you to know, shout out to both Kim and my cousin Annette, who taught me back in October when I first started living alone. They were like, you have got to reorganize your wallet so you know where things are. It was a whole thing. They sat there and helped me. I know. I know. That's how not adulting. I mean, it was a whole funny thing. And they sat there, and Kim kept saying, she told me this way, I got the same wallet as her, and it doesn't matter. I finally know how to do it. So I came home last night after doing comedy, and I was checking my wallet before I go to bed, like I do, to make sure everything's right there in the pockets. And I went, oh, there's a card missing. Huh. That's weird. Went through my whole purse. Huh. So I called right then and there and just said, go ahead and cancel it. And the guy was able to say, no false charge. Oh, yeah, I left it at the place where I had dinner with my friends last night, which is still a bit confusing because I don't remember doing that. But anyway, and I just canceled it and had them send it, and yeah, easy peasy. So you taught me the value of that. That's a millennial life hack. Oh, if you leave it behind, don't bother going there in the light of day and having to just cancel it. They'll send you a new one.
Sometimes you have to do that. There's no other option. But you can't do it all the time because at a certain point, you build up so much bad karma from not tipping the wait staff that you will just fall over dead.
You know what's interesting about this one? I tipped. It was a funny little scene. You go in.
Oh, you just left it. Okay. Tell me about it.
You go in and you pay. You get a card. It's beer on the wall. Self-pour beer.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's like Vegas. You get a little card, you pay in advance, and they say, if you want to close out right now, you can tip and everything. And I did that. So I actually tipped 20% to our very nice waiter because I did it beforehand. My friends and I were all like, yes, that sounds wonderful. We don't have to stand in line when we're leaving. Tipped them and then assume it all got, and the charge was high. I didn't even drink that much beer, but that was expensive beer because he told me what it was.
You're paying for the experience, too.
Oh,
the beer's a little bit more expensive when you get to pour it yourself.
It seemed weird. I think I drank less because I was pouring sort of half. First of all, we were all like, do I not know how to pour beer anymore? I was getting a lot of foam. And then we figured it out again, like, yes, we do remember how to pour beer. But I kept getting sort of a quarter of a glass to try a beer. So I think I end up drinking. I do declare I think I drink less at a situation like that, which is nice because then I went and did comedy and had to come home and find a bra on my road. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was, I suppose you can't do it a lot because of the tipping thing and also because your credit card company might get annoyed. Like, stop leaving your shit in bars. Right? Doesn't seem like a good... Anyway, it was very cool, and it was like, I just went, that's weird, I'm going to call. And he looked it all up for me, and easy peasy lemon squeezy, it's coming in the mail. So that was great. Good life hack. Sorry that I left it, and I'm still a little baffled, because you see what I said? You pay in advance. So then where did I leave my card?
It's a good question.
I wonder if, like, when I don't know. I mean, she handed me back my ID, I suppose my card, and this card that now worked as cash in this restaurant. I don't know if at that point she just didn't hand it back to me or if I stuck. I don't know. That's actually kind of baffling. I don't, because it's not like I left it in the book on the table. Doesn't matter because I'm safe now and they canceled it and nobody else can use it wherever it may be. I know.
You gotta check all your jacket pockets because the first thing you should know about my friend Mrs. Filholm is that she loses things all the time. The next thing you should know about Mrs. Filholm is that it's pretty much always in her jacket pocket.
Remember the sticker that I lost that said 20 for my car? I did find it in basically the pocket of my cube. It was in the side door pocket, which is like a known place that stuff falls. I thought I probably did check it and it was like up against the whatever wall of that little space. But it was in my door pocket. I found it. Again, it was good. I had already paid my $4 and gotten the current sticker and everything, but it was kind of good just to know that I hadn't gone insane. There it was. I mean, it fell out of this place and was there. Okay, at least it didn't vaporize, because that's what I was feeling like. Yeah, I lose a lot of things. Gosh, you should have saved that for your homework next week. That's too bad. My roommates in New York City used to go through my pockets. I've probably said it on the show. And like if they wanted to order a pizza, there might be $10 in my pocket. Any various pocket. It's true. I do love pockets, but I lose things in my pockets.
What else you got this week, Mrs. Filholm? I keep looking back at BergDen Data. I keep looking at your new voiceover thing, and I can feel the entrepreneurial spirit. It's alive and well in Denver, Colorado.
Nice.
It makes me happy.
I think there's a lot of video production companies in Denver, Colorado, and I have been reaching out to them with my voiceover reel because it just is, we've talked about this, it's a different world than it used to be for getting voice jobs. It seems like there's more opportunity because you can just contact people directly rather than going through an agency, but I'm not sure how, though. It's kind of Wild West. I'm not sure how it works. So there seems to be a lot of entrepreneurial, really high-quality video production in this town, too. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
nice. Good job, Denver.
I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube, and it is amazing the quality of video that happens in people's backyards and basements now, where it wasn't possible previously.
Yeah, right here recording this podcast, and that's the thing. Doing this voiceover stuff, recording my book right here in my yard is amazing. I do have something that I wanted to tell you about. Oh, yes. You were talking recently about you have to interview a lot as your type of entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Interviewing a lot. And one thing I said to somebody recently in my life who was going off to an interview, and she looked very nervous, as you are. And I said something that is so important, and I need to remember this myself. When I interview, when I do stand-up comedy, we used to say it as actors, they want to like you.
Yeah, they do. They have a need that they specifically think you might be a good fit for because odds are they've already looked at your resume and stuff. They are pretty. That's a great thing to remember.
I've been on the other side of hiring a lot in the past couple of years, and because I work for a place that's really growing staff-wise, and so I've been on that other end, and boy, is it true, right? You've narrowed it down to maybe these 5 people you're going to Skype and then see in person or whatever, and even at that point, it's like we are hoping every single person we talk to is the one, and I mean, I remember knowing that also when I helped sort of cast a play here and there back in the theater days, and going, oh my God, it's so true. We are devastated when you're not good. We are actually rooting for every single person who walks up there. It rarely feels like that from the other side, right? It feels scary. It feels like judging. I'm going to be judged. I'm going to fail. Boy, it's so helpful to remember. Everybody, they're pulling for you or they wouldn't be interviewing you, and they are hoping you are the answer to their dreams.
I had an interview last week, maybe the week before. I don't remember. And it's a guy. He said he was going to call me. He didn't call me. I sent him a note the next day and said, "Hey, can we reschedule?" I guess it didn't happen or whatever. And we set it up. He was late to the next call, and then he liked me. He said he was going to send me some legal paperwork to get the ball rolling. He hasn't done that, and I wanted to be discouraged about it. I want to be like, well, I don't really want to work with this guy anyways because he's all over the place and whatever. But the reality is that this person needs more help than anybody. He is the customer, right? He needs someone on his side who can meet the deadlines and make the things happen.
That's interesting.
And it's clear to me there's a need, and it's clear to me that that things are right. So I've got to be. I mean, in this interview, it's important to remember that they need some help. It's also important to remember that for the person who's willing to take it on, that could be the perfect role.
Interesting, huh? You want to be that guy?
I do. The price is right on this one.
Okay. I do want to be that guy. Let me help you. Well, good. What are you going to do? Keep pinging him?
Yeah. Every time I ping him, and I'm in these communications, I never want to convey any blame. It's always, oh, that just didn't happen. Maybe we could try again. So I keep pinging him and reminding him. And usually when I ping him and remind him, he comes back and, he apologizes and says, "Hey, sorry, I just got busy." And he's a nice guy. Everybody's a nice guy. He's just busy.
I was, I guess it was last summer, last fall, I was working on a project at work, and somebody who works in a similar industry, we're building it was like a capital building project, told me, no, it's your job as the client to ping me, to put it in front of my face. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. You're doing a job. I'm trusting that you're the contractor. You're working on it. And I feel like annoying when I don't hear from you. And then I call. I often try to find that balance. Am I being annoying when I'm hounding people, when I'm pinging them all the time? Am I being annoying? And the interesting thing is exactly as you just said. So often people come back and say, "Thanks for reminding me. Sorry, I'm just busy." And I'm like, wow. So
and
putting
this
things
is the
in
person
their face,
you hired. You're the client.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I know. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't understand. It was like an architect installing some furniture, office furniture. So it was like architect, but it wasn't real walls.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like the process of that, like getting the furniture ordered and placing the order and and figuring it out and doing the measure. I just assumed like this is the process, you're on it, and then I wouldn't hear and I'd
That seems
follow
like
up.
bad customer service.
I'm saying, and I was told by people in that kind of construction industry, no, it's your job. We're all too busy. It's your job to keep putting it on my plate. I'm like, that seems insane. That is a weird way to work.
Why would I pay you if you if I have to tell you to do everything, right?
That's how I feel.
What are you good for?
I know, but I was told, like, no kidding, that is appropriate. Like, no, it's and it was also I was probably saying, I feel like I'm being annoying. I really do. Like, I don't want, I want to trust that you're doing your job, and I don't want to be micromanaging you. But then, good golly, every time I do kind of reach out, it's like, oh yeah, thanks, sorry, we're behind. Thanks for reminding us. It's like, oh my God. So that, right, that was probably a bad example of customer service, but my understanding is that happened. Like, people in that kind of industry go, no, that's on you to keep it on my plate. I feel like that's weird, but it's also good to know how take that or leave it. But it's good to know that not only do they want to like you,
Some
you
people
may
do
not
need
be,
a reminder.
Yes, and there was one person that I hired actually at work, and she did keep putting it in front of my plate, and it was just something I was kind of procrastinating on.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I finally met with her, I just felt like I owed her. So that's the other thing. Like, she was being technically annoying, reaching out. And by the time I finally met her for what we were going to talk about, I felt like I really owe you. I'm so sorry. So that worked. She kept putting it in my face and reminding me about this thing that was, anyway. So that's interesting that I often worry about too much communication, but maybe I don't know, maybe it's okay.
The coming from the worker side, I always try to, and I'm working on a lot of more long term stuff. I may not have a deliverable every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So for me as the worker, it's important that I communicate to the client so that they know A, that their project is top of my mind, and B, that there's progress being made on it. So I always check in every couple of days with as much of an update as I have. Sometimes it's, hey, I didn't get this thing done. Sometimes it's I got these 12 things done. But just so that they know that they're top of my mind and that I'm also top of their mind. Because if I keep checking in, there's a good chance they'll keep coming up with things for me to do.
That's good. Yeah, sure.
So
sure.
it's a symbiotic relationship where if you make that initial effort, I guess it's not a symbiotic relationship. It's like a snowball effect, right? That you put in a little input and then it grows and grows and grows, and theoretically they will become bigger and bigger clients for me, I hope.
Yeah, that's awesome. And communication, I suppose, just gets better and better because staying in touch. Yeah, that's true. Staying in touch with people and just letting them know where your progress is. That seems sensible. It always is in any kind of project managey thing, right? Where you're just checking in, making sure little sprints are being accomplished and little goalposts are being met along the way, right? It is important. Otherwise, projects don't get done.
Mm-hmm.
True story.
Yeah, it's very easy to fall behind on a project, and once you're a little bit behind, it's very easy to fall a lot of bit behind.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. Are you sweating?
It is hot in here.
God. Augie told me today that there's such a thing as an air conditioner built for a small sound studio that is noise proof, not noisy. I got to look that up, Andrew, because it didn't occur to me when I built this little studio in March, April, May. We were worried about it being cold, and it's pretty easy to heat with a dish heater and then pull the curtains down and we're good for an hour. Holy cow, I'm perspiring like a really pretty badly. It's not super comfortable. I want us to be comfortable in the recording studio, Andrew. Are you looking it up?
I am looking it up, and it seems I was a member at an indoor gun club for a while, and the HVAC system on this thing was super involved because they need to move a lot of air because you don't want people getting lead poisoning from breathing in all that gunpowder and actual physical lead. But if you have a good HVAC system, all the sound is going to creep out through the top of the building into the neighborhood or whatever, and there's a lot of noise pollution.
And then people will wonder, I wish I knew what a gunshot sounded like.
So there was when they were walking me through this facility and teaching me all about it, there is there's a geometric formula that sound loses X percentage of its volume every time it bounces off something. So this HVAC system was designed that there were a certain number of spirals in the ductwork so that you couldn't hear the gunshots outside of the gun range.
How cool.
And now
I'm a sound blanket with angles.
Now I'm looking at how you air condition a studio with no noise pollution. And it's the exact same thing. It's still a forced air system. You just have to put a lot of spirals in it to eliminate the noise.
Is there like a standalone unit that we could put in here?
I don't know. Standalone air conditioners, they're a pain in the butt.
I know. Okay, I don't know. I got to look into it because this is hot.
It is hot. But hold on, let me tell you how long we've been recording. We've been recording for 55 minutes. If we can just be funny for like another 5 minutes.
We don't have to meet a deadline. I don't know why you would want to extend. Who wants to listen to an over an hour podcast? Everybody. Obviously.
I don't know, Mrs.
We
Filholm.
appreciate those listeners, though. I have one other thing. We'll save it for next week. What? You actually what?
No, hit me with one more thing.
No, it's too long. It'll take longer than 5 minutes.
All right. Well, say something ruckusy.
Comedy on around Father's Day.
Yep.
I told you, I was inspired kind of to go back at it for a minute because Father's Day was sad for me. Almost every single man on Father's Day did some joke about how he disappoints his father, how he embarrasses his father, whatever. Like, there were so many. And then there was one guy who got up and said, I think I wrote it down. He started like fronting and kind of saying some stuff. And he goes, I just can't do it. I had a good dad. It was interesting that, okay, so you're looking at comedians who are out there, and perhaps many of us feel like, boy, I am a giant disappointment. And a lot of these guys are out there really working it, humping it, trying to do this for a living, right? And probably many of them were supposed to be lawyers and doctors and data scientists. And so they're a giant disappointment to their fathers, or at least perceive it that way. Also hanging out with other comics, let's face it, I'm standing around with a lot of other broken people doing a real weird thing. But that was very funny. That was like, whoa, Father's Day, because there are often you'll be out, even like Christmas or 4th of July, and people don't address it. It's like, whatever, it's a holiday. Sometimes people do, but it's not a consistent thing. And I swear on that Sunday night of Father's Day, 85% of the men, it's always mostly men anyway, but it talked about their fathers, and mostly in the spirit of, I'm just such a disappointment to my dad. Isn't that sad?
That's funny.
Oh, I said it was sad and you thought it was funny? It was funny. It was funny. That was all. I wrote that little note for you. I wrote a lot of notes this week. What else do you have?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, we brought some ruckus. It was a good episode, Andrew. I think it'll play just fine.
I think it'll play just fine too. And I really enjoyed I enjoyed talking about new businesses. And you've got your voiceover work happening.
Mm-hmm.
I got my thing happening. BergDen has their thing happening. It's all happening, Filholm.
That alone is the ruckus. And anybody with a cool data question, wherever you are, go to BergDen.com. Okay, I actually wasn't looking at it. Is it just BergDen.com or is it
Correct.
BergDen Data? BergDen.com, Berg like iceberg, Den like Denver.com. Thank you for your sponsorship. Thanks for helping me figure out a statistical way to look at a profound question. And thanks for bringing the ruckus, Andrew Bridges.
Thank you, Mrs. Filholm.
Bye, Andrew.
Goodbye.